Good afternoon. My name is Alvin Briggs. I'm the Associate Executive Director here at the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I want to welcome all our member schools, the media, and the public to the AHSAA press conference concerning return to play. I want to first to especially thank the Central Board of Control and the Legislative Council for their leadership in allowing our schools to return to play for this fall. As we move forward, I want to also thank the Medical Advisory Committee, the State Department of Education, Department of Public Health, and the CDC for helping us compile all the documents for the best practice. I want to also thank Denise Ainsworth and the executive staff here at the Alabama High School Athletic Association for their countless hours of hard work as to compile all this information. I am so proud of our Central Board of Control, our Legislative Council, for allowing our schools to move forward with fall practice. Lastly, I want to thank Vince Early, WTOM, and the National Federation for allowing us to use this platform for our virtual press conference today. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the platform the Executive Director, Coach Steve Savarese.
Thank you, Alvin. I appreciate you very much. And I appreciate everyone being with us today. And I hope everyone is healthy. Hope your families are healthy. And I thank you for taking time, allowing us to provide you an update on our best practices as we return to our scheduled practices. I want to thank everyone for their patience and understanding as we deal with this unprecedented health issue. Please note, as I say often, that this information is current, but if we receive new information from the Department of Public Health, as well as any state executive orders, sports could change almost immediately. Interscholastic activities, as well as our best practice document, are fluid, and I reiterate, could change with the addition of new health information. Our Medical Advisory Board, our Central Board of Control will continue to analyze new health information as released by the Department of Public Health, the State Department of Education, as well as government officials. If we go back to March, the Alabama Department of Public Health and the governor issued orders closing schools and facilities, resulting in spring sport athletics ending. In June, by an order of the governor, athletics was allowed to resume as our students began practicing and played on non-school teams and continue throughout the summer. Yesterday, the Central Board of Control approved our member schools' best practice document as our schools prepare to begin their fall sports seasons. With schools reopening with 3 different platforms of education, traditional, blended, and virtual or remote learning, these best practices are provided to mitigate the exposure of COVID-19. And it was a priority of our board, but please know, these best practices will not eliminate the risk, only mitigate them. Parents will now have options not only on how they educate their children, but as always, parents must make a personal choice on whether they allow their children to participate in extracurricular activities. Unless health officials shut down schools, as well as all outside activities, the choice will remain with the parents. Regardless of your position with the virus in sport, to return or not to return to school, your perspective is right. There's no wrong position, but the choice to participate must remain with the parent. Moreover, Everyone should understand sports this season will not be normal. We cannot think in normal terms. Therefore, our board has provided schools flexibility to play or to not play without penalty, and to allow school officials to use their judgment based on the latest health information available for their specific region of the state. We understand schools may have to start and stop, delay, play at a later date, schedule and reschedule, but schools will have the autonomy of when to allow their teams to participate. As we all realize, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to this health conundrum, but I'm thankful for the board for providing the flexibility necessary for students to have some semblance of fall activities. As educators, the board also realized the emotional, mental, social, and physical well-being of not providing once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for students. That is why it's essential that everyone do their part to mitigate the risk of the virus, enabling our students to have as normal a childhood as possible. Since June 4th, our schools in all sports have been practicing. But I want to especially thank our administrators and coaches for providing an environment that was as safe as possible. In watching our world's reaction to this virus since March, I wish everyone had the commitment of our educators, especially our coaches, and their commitment to mitigate the virus and do their part to protect others. Their love and dedication to our students has never been more evident. I'm also thankful to our Governor, Kay Ivey, for providing a mask order, as we can all learn from the Mayor of Montgomery, Stephen Reed, who had the courage to issue a mask order 5 weeks ago that has resulted in Montgomery's COVID-19 cases being cut in half. See, it's all simple if we all do our part and make the necessary sacrifices to protect others. This virus may not go away, but it will enable us to learn how to live with the virus. As a grandparent in the high-risk category, and as our grandchildren return to school, Beth and I have to be cautious with our family and make our sacrifices, not hugging, not being able to spend as much time with our grandchildren, allowing them to experience their childhood. So as we move forward today, it is my privilege to thank Denise Ainsworth, who is an assistant director here, for coordinating and leading our best practice document. I'm especially grateful for her leadership with our staff, superintendents, principals, and coaches. She is now going to review key components of our document, as hopefully this will clear up many of the questions you have regarding our upcoming season. This document, as well as frequently asked questions, will be available for review on our website, www.ahsaa.com, immediately following this press conference. Also, at the end of this presentation, we will answer any questions that were submitted previously or that you text to us during this press conference. You may submit a question by texting to AHSAA 211 to 22333. Again, by texting AHSAA 211 to 22333, which will appear on this screen throughout our presentation. It is now my privilege to introduce Denise Ainsworth, Assistant Director.
Thank you, Coach. Good afternoon to everyone. Appreciate you being here. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today and for your interest in high school athletics. I'd also like to thank our staff for their countless hours of work for the past 4 months preparing for this day. During that preparation, we have consulted with the NCAA, the National Federation of High School Associations. We've consulted with the ADPH. We've looked at CDC. We've looked at other high school athletic associations preparing for today. I'm sure you would agree that none of us have all of the answers. No one does. But this is our answer. We want to get our kids back to a normal life as safely as possible. We want them to enjoy the benefits of athletics and an education. This document that we have created is not a final document. It is going to be a very fluid document that will be updated constantly by insight from the Alabama Department of Public Health and other governing officials, as well as research. We have done a lot of research in preparing for this, and so we hope that you will realize that and realize that we will continue to do that research. In going through this document, the table of contents will list for you, when you see it online, all the categories that we have put into the document. Today, I will just be going over with you some of the highlights. We do not have time to go over each individual part of the document, but we will look at each section, just an overview. The first section is education, and education throughout this pandemic has been very important. School administrators and coaches must stay abreast and current with the guidelines from all the governing bodies that we have mentioned earlier, the Department of Health, the CDC, and their local governing bodies. They must continue to mitigate, lessen the risk for the spread of this virus. We have been doing this throughout the summer. The way to do that is to mitigate the wearing or practice the mitigation processes that you've heard for 4 months. Wear a mask, wash your hands, practice social distancing, and clean. It's like the shampoo bottle where it says wash, rinse, repeat. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to practice social distancing, wash our hands, wear a mask, clean, and repeat. Coaches are going to constantly stress to their athletes that it's so important what you do away from school. We've managed these pretty well at the school this summer. We've practiced these things, but it is important that these athletes practice those same mitigation skills with their families, with their friends. Where they're out away from the school, we do not want them contacting the virus there either. Rule modifications by the National Federation have been implemented. Those rule modifications will be posted online after this event. These rule modifications are for the rules of the game that will be modified slightly to allow for social distancing, etc. I'd like to go over just a few of those with you at this time. First, in the fall sport of cross country, they are suggesting that the course be widened to at least 6 feet where feasible. All of the modification plans talk about the 6-foot distance. It talks about wearing the mask on the sideline, on the bench, wherever. With volleyball, we're going to suspend the protocol of changing benches, although the AHSAA has allowed schools not to change for a very long time. We're going to move the pre-match conference to the center court so that 6-foot distance can be maintained, and we're only going to bring the head coaches to that, no longer bring the captains. We're going to limit the number of people that sit at the officials' table. Visiting teams, you should be aware of that when you're the visiting team because your scorekeeper may have to sit away from the officials' table. As for swimming and diving, we're going to require athletes to arrive at the venue already in their competitive attire if social distancing is not available in the locker rooms. We're going to reduce the number of people at the pre-meet conference, and we're going to require all takeoff judging from the sides of to be done from the sides of the pool to allow social distance between the judges. In football, you may have heard of this one already. They're going to extend the players' box from the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. You should note that is the players' box, they're not extending the coach's box. Charge timeouts are going to be extended to 2 minutes. This is going to allow for social distancing to occur, for individual water bottles to be handed out, and only one captain from each team will be present at the coin toss. These are mitigation practices, again, just trying to reduce the risk of the spread of the virus. There are other modifications listed, and you may find those on our website after this presentation. We have a section titled General Operational Best Practices for Preseason and Regular Season. In this, you will find that schools may choose, or that schools have an option to begin fall practice on July the 27th. That week is an acclimation week or a tryout week for all of our sports teams. Schools that begin on July 27th must use this week as an acclimation week. They may only be in shorts and helmets during that week, and there are no two-a-day practices during this week. That is the week of July 27th, or teams may choose to start later. The original first start date for practice was August the 3rd. They may choose to start August the 3rd. They may also choose to start later for that practice time if it fits their needs best. They must have 13 days of practice before they can compete, so that gives them a little leeway in doing that. We also have a category of communication. Communication this year between school principals, school coaches, and athletic directors is going to be more prevalent and more needed than ever. You need to communicate ahead of time regarding whether you have room in your locker rooms, is your city under a mask ordinance, etc. So those things regarding COVID-19 will need to be communicated early as possible to allow everyone to compete easily. Contracts, the schools have contracts already, but schools need to read those again and look at updating and amending those contracts so that it can cover issues related to COVID-19. That would include looking at things like possibly changing of date, flipping of the home site, playing in a neutral site, or splitting the gate 50-50. Those contractual amendments should be resolved between the two schools. Under the contest category, as Coach mentioned earlier, local schools have the autonomy to return to school as they choose, whether that is a virtual model, a blended model, or a traditional model, and still be able to participate in athletics. This is to give schools the choice. We have not regulated regular season play. We've always allowed the schools that choice of how they went about having fans, how many ticket gates they had. We only govern championship play. So the schools still have the autonomy to make those choices. We want to give kids the opportunity to play irregardless of what the model is that the school has chosen. If schools must miss a game, that game will be forfeited. However, our Central Board of Control will evaluate those forfeitures at the end of the season as to how it relates to their regular season record, and they must evaluate that to look at championship play and who will be where. If a school is not able to participate in a contest, the local superintendent must notify the AHSAA executive director in writing. We have a section in this document on contingency plans. Contingency plans have been developed, and our Central Board of Control will be reviewing those documents in October. For volleyball and cross-country and swimming, we would like to tell you, we've already told you earlier, that we would like for you to play your area and qualified meets as soon as possible to allow you as much time as possible to work around any stoppage of play, etc., that may occur. Required dates, as listed in the 2021 sports book, are the dates required games must be completed. Under facilities in this section of the book, if fan restrictions are in place at a local school, equal access for visiting fans must be provided. Local school systems decide the number of fans allowed in the stadium. We hope that they will go look at the ADPH if they are recommending. We think they will come out with some specifics a little later, but local school systems decide fan attendance and who is allowed. We would encourage you to call ahead for games to find out those procedures. Just remember that if there are fan restrictions in place, equal access must be allowed for the visiting team. To help mitigate with the handling of tickets and or money, we have a partner called GoFan who's been around for a long time providing tickets, paper tickets to our schools. They have implemented a few years ago a virtual or a digital ticketing process that many of our schools already participate in. This will allow you to purchase your ticket online, and you will not have to touch a paper ticket or transfer a paper ticket. They also offer a cashless process where no cash has to exchange hands. I would encourage you to contact Patrick Knowles, and I can give you that information if you will call me. It's also in our document. We realize that everyone will not feel comfortable going to a ball game. We understand that. I am an asthmatic. I am 62 years old, so I'm also in that group. So if you do not feel comfortable wearing a mask, I would feel comfortable, but if you do not feel comfortable, we do provide the NFHS network, which is an online streaming platform that is available to you. Many of our schools are already using that, and you can watch your local high school games. But not only local high school games, you can also watch graduations, you can watch proms, you can watch whatever your school wants to stream. You can watch that. So we would encourage you to check out the NFHS network. We would also encourage our schools to become a part of the NFHS network if they are not already. The document also briefly addresses transportation. Transportation and how students are transported from one venue to another for a game is up to the local school board. They decide whether they allow personal automobiles or school buses. We would encourage wearing a mask on a bus, obviously, and we would also encourage assigned seating on the bus so that if contact tracing was needed at some point in time, it would be easy to know who was within that 6 foot distance of another student. We address the locker and dressing rooms. It is the host school's responsibility to provide a clean environment for all visiting teams to dress and have their pregame meetings. When possible, the area should be large enough to maintain social distancing. However, I was an athletic director for 12 years, and my school would not have allowed enough space. The locker room would not allow enough space for social distancing. So we suggest that schools look at other ways to dress for a game. As swimming put into their modifications, come dressed to the game. Just travel dressed in your uniform. Dressing by groups, whether that be by class or position, limiting your travel numbers like colleges do. Only X amount of students can be on the travel team. But either way, when physical distancing cannot be maintained, facial coverings are suggested. Section 10 of this document is game day and event management. Game day personnel are considered anyone facilitating or having a role in the production of a game. This includes your chain crews, your concession workers, your media, etc. We would suggest they be screened before coming in contact with people at the game, but that screening process would be left to the local school. Local schools have been screening all summer, so they have a process in place. Next, we would like to go to auxiliary participants. Again, these are your fans, these are your band, your cheerleaders, the auxiliary participants. Fan requirements, as mentioned earlier, are left up to the local school. We have had lots of questions about band and cheerleaders, and we realize that those student athletes work very hard all summer long. And so we would encourage the local school administration to prioritize the band and cheerleaders being present before fans and then work the fans in after that. Again, though, it is local school policy, and there will need to be some accommodations made with the new football rule of the player's box going from the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. So where you are normally cheering may have to change, or where the media has normally been may have to change, but we know that all of you are willing to be flexible as we work through these difficult times. Home management will also be responsible for providing adequate space for officials, especially to providing hand washing soap and water and hand sanitizer. I think I have gotten through most of that. We will now go back to Mr. Savarese for your questions and to conclude this press conference. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you at a game.
Thank you, Denise. You did an awesome job, as always, and I thank you for your leadership with our member schools regarding this document. We've had a number of questions come in that I'd like to go over some of these with you. One is, are there suggested guidelines in place regarding large cross-country meet? Those will be on our website. We encourage you. The NFHS has provided our governing body, the National Federation of High School State Associations, has provided us mitigation suggestions for cross-country meets. Will officials be required to wear masks? We highly encourage our officials to wear masks, as well as our coaches, as well as our students on the sideline when they're not into the game. That's all on our document. Will school districts have the opportunity to opt out of football season if they don't feel like it's safe? Absolutely. We allow schools on a week by week, semester by semester, 9 week by 9 week, whatever they feel is safe based on the latest health information within their school district, their county, whatever, they will be allowed to make that decision with no penalty. If students are virtual students, are they allowed to participate? In accordance with a state law that was passed in 2015 that referred to homeschool students as well as virtual school students, those students are to be provided the same opportunity as traditional students. But local school systems, as will be referred to in our document, may have more restrictive policy. How does the return to play plan impact surrounding football or fall sports such as band attendance, cheerleading, and concession? Yesterday there was a little misinformation went out that regarding cheerleaders and band and fans. Fan restrictions will be a local school issue. Local schools will determine how many fans will be allowed to attend the game. We are looking forward to, in the next few weeks, the Alabama Department of Public Health providing documents towards attendance at athletic events. Also, what we would suggest that parents and everyone check with their local school, because we definitely think there will be fan restrictions. As Denise went over, we have to provide equal access. And one of the, yesterday it was brought up about cheerleading and band as being essential. We do not govern cheerleading and band, but we encourage all school systems to provide an opportunity for the band to participate and for cheerleaders to be part of the contest if in accordance with local school policy. Yesterday, the question came up on the sideline, we have to expand it 10 to 10. Well, we've received a lot of calls from cheerleading parents. What happens with our girls or guys who are on the sideline cheering? And how do we deal with that? Well, what we encourage administrators yesterday to find a place for them and work with your football teams to find a safe environment, not only for the band, but for cheerleaders. Also, we advised our membership yesterday that if there is fan restrictions, to please make band and cheerleading parents a priority, allowing them to attend before any other restrictions are in place regarding outside individuals for attending the game. Do coaches have to wear a mask? Yes, we were highly suggesting that coaches wear a mask on the sideline. Our coaches have done an awesome job all summer long. They've been wearing masks all summer long. So I rode by practice the other day, and the coaches were out working with their kids, and they were doing a great job. They all had masks on, and they were all practicing physical distancing with their drills. Again, there's another question about virtual learning. Will they be eligible to play in accordance with our bylaws? They're allowed to play, but it's strictly a local decision. How will the AHSAA handle forfeits if a team has to forfeit due to an outbreak of COVID-19? Forfeit, if a school cannot play, they notify us in writing. They will forfeit the game. There will be no penalties. If they can find a way to play at a later date, we will work with them, as I explained to our board. This is unprecedented health times. We have to be more understanding, more flexible, and look for ways to work with our schools as to allow our students to participate. You know, if we can get in 5 games, 8 games, nobody knows what tomorrow holds. That's why we're beginning when we're beginning, because we don't know what October holds, November, but hopefully we can get our games in, allowing our students to have, if not an entire season, a portion of their season. Many of you have asked me, you've said, what about moving our fall sports to the spring? As I explained to our board yesterday, last spring, what happened to our spring sports hopefully will never happen again. And to move our spring sports to the fall, where they may not have a season, to jeopardize their season would be unconscionable right now. We are not going to do that. Our kids hopefully will have a normal spring season. I pray they do. But we will have fall sports in the fall, as much of a season as possible, not knowing what the future holds. Also, our medical advisory board has advised us not to have back-to-back football seasons, play in the spring, work out in the summer, and play again in the fall. They highly advise us against that for health and safety reasons. Will there be restrictions on out-of-state teams? That was a question we asked the Alabama Department of Public Health, one of their officials recently. At this time, there are no restrictions, but keep up to date with latest information that may be in the future. If a team has a season, how will the season be handled? What happens to the opposing team that are supposed to play them? Well, again, they will have the opportunity to reschedule If they cannot reschedule a game, they'll still get the team that could play will receive a win. The team that cannot play will receive a loss. As Denise explained, those teams that are affected by COVID-19 and their records could possibly be expunged at the end of the year based on a board decision. Will there be major adjustments to the season like shortening or a full schedule? Right now, we're planning on having a full schedule. As our medical advisory director advised us yesterday, we're not sure what the future holds. So if we start and we're able to get some semblance of a season in, if we have to start, if things would get worse in the future, at least our kids will have experienced some type of participation. What happens if there's a shutdown? Fall sports will end if the Department of Public Health or our governor shuts down our schools, as happened in March. I have some other questions. There's some questions that probably could be related to Ron Ingram, our Director of Communication, as it relates to what about radio broadcasters and so on. You know, as I said, this is just not normal. We're all going to have to adjust through this procedure. Schools will try to make as many accommodations for individuals as possible, but we're all going to have to be patient and understanding as we deal with this health issue. It just won't be normal. Will the AHSAA provide contact tracing between schools? We will not provide contact tracing. That is the responsibility of the Department of Public Health. What about winter and spring sports? Winter and spring sports, your guess is as good as mine. I pray every day that we're able to finish our sports seasons. Our kids will experience the opportunities that sports provide them this fall, that we can move into winter sports. But as I said when I started, we base our decisions on current information. And if information changes, we'll adjust accordingly. Prayerfully, we will have a winter sports season. If a school does not have sports due to COVID, will a student be able to transfer and be eligible? Currently, our rules, and I remind you, our rules are passed by our member schools. I know I get a lot of credit for the rules, but our job is to govern those rules the schools make. And currently, if you play JV and below, if you are a JV athlete, maybe you're on a JV basketball team, the B team basketball team, football team, you may transfer. You have an exception to the bona fide move rule, and you are allowed to transfer if that school accepts out of transfer individuals. So you would be allowed to transfer. If you're a varsity athlete, you must meet all transfer rules, specifically the bona fide move rule. Is that the end of our questions?
Frequently asked questions, if you want to go through.
Let me go over some frequently asked questions that we will have online. Will our sports start on time? That is our plan today, and we definitely hope that happens. I know our students are excited about the opportunity to return to a sense of normalcy, and that is our goal also. Who determines when and if a school participates in athletic competition? The Central Board sets the beginning dates for practice and competition in all sports. However, based on COVID-19, the decision on when and if a school will participate is under the jurisdiction of the local school board. And a reminder, there is no penalty for not playing. Will fans be restricted from attending contests? Excuse me, I've gone over this one more time. All decisions concerning spectators, student sections, stadium seating, reserve seats are all under the management of the local school. We have over 700 schools that participate, 7 through 12, in interscholastic athletics. Each school is different. We have 7 different classifications, from schools with 50 students, 10 through 12, or 9 through 12, to schools with 3,000. So we encourage you to check with your local schools regarding fan attendance. Does the AHSAA govern health and safety guidelines? With HIPAA laws, we do not have access to any student health-related information. That information is with our local schools, and all guidelines for COVID response would be to follow the CDC and ADPH, or Department of Public Health guidelines. If a school starts a year with remote learning or full learning, I've covered this. Whenever a school starts, they can play. If they're remote and they do not want to play, they feel like it's unsafe, they do not have to play. That superintendent of that school system knows what's best for his community, and we encourage you to check with your local schools. Will there be contest rule modifications for fall sports? Absolutely. That most of them just deal with health and safety issues. We ask you to check our website. They'll all be on our website within 15 minutes, so please check our website for that information. What will result if a school board does not allow a sport team to participate in a scheduled athletic competition? Regardless of whether the school is open or closed, if a school decides to play or not play, it's totally up to them. David, will you lift those questions up to number 9, please? Thank you. If a school, will volleyball, cross country, and swimming teams be allowed to compete in or host out-of-state competition? I addressed this earlier. I'll send a reminder. Yes, they are allowed to host or participate in out-of-state, but before you go out-of-state, we ask you to check with local schools in that area regarding out-of-state competition, as well as follow our website if new information comes out from the Department of Public Health. Will masks be required? We highly encourage masks, especially if the 6 feet for 15-minute rule cannot be met. Please do that. Great question just came in. Are these recommendations for middle school students also? Absolutely, yes they are, as our association governs 7 through 12. Will there be guidelines for the visiting dressing rooms? Again, we have to rely on the courtesy of our schools to provide as adequate a dressing facility as possible. But Denise talked about communication. Once you communicate between schools, if there's not enough room, as there won't be many times in a visiting locker room, you may have to dress in waves. Everything's going to take more time. Everything's going to take more time, so I encourage you to please communicate with your schools and get those things worked out. Our time is up for today, but I want to thank all of you for being with us today. I want to say something I said before. No one is wrong regarding their opinion with COVID-19. And I want to assure you this association respects each and every one of your opinions. I want you also to respect ours and our Central Board of Controls in providing an opportunity for our students. Our students will not come through here again if a parent is not sure whether they want their students to participate in sport. We truly understand. But please, please, all of you, practice the guidelines put forth by our medical advisors, practice the guidelines put forth by our governor, so our kids can have a future. If we'll all do what's asked of us, then we will have an opportunity to return to a sense of normalcy. You know, I've been out. Beth and I don't go very many places. But I want to say everyone hasn't followed those guidelines. Maybe now, as we're returning to school, everyone will practice those guidelines to help protect our students and enable us to still have a sense of normalcy for our kids and allow our students to enjoy their childhood. I wish you God's blessings, much health, and thank you for joining us today.